The Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Also tonight, major developments surrounding the president and Spygate. John Solomon is here. He will be breaking a brand new report detailing what are extreme measures the deep state took in order to secretly monitor the Trump campaign. No other network has this. And right now, even House Chairman Trey Gowdy is now facing a backlash, rightly so, from conservatives for trying to play down what is the biggest political corruption, abuse of power scandal in American history. Very powerful remarks from the great one, Mark Levin, coming up. But first, we'll bring you all the latest information on the president's huge negotiations, seemingly a breakthrough with North Korea. And we'll show you the left's ridiculous outrage over the president's pardons. And, of course, the latest example of sick, twisted, ugly liberal hypocrisy. In this case, Samantha Bee's despicable, disgusting comments about the first daughter, Ivanka Trump. That's in tonight's very important breaking news opening monologue. All right, breaking right now, new report just came out, Washington Post. Federal prosecutors have now interviewed James Comey as they now weigh whether or not to charge his former deputy FBI director, Andrew McCabe, with a crime for his obsessive lying, which is why he was reportedly now fired. It looks like two key members of the deep state, yeah, they're now turning on each other, and this could be the signs of the wall collapsing. So is McCabe and others now finally going to be exposed about their constant extreme wrongdoing? I've said many times on this show, starting in January, this is the year of the boomerang. We'll give you all the breaking developments. And also tonight, according to reports, the disgraced former deputy FBI director McCabe, who, as we said, was fired because of his pattern of blatant lying, he wrote a personal, confidential memo detailing his so-called concerns over the president's decision to fire his former boss and personal friend. Now, McCabe reportedly turned that memo over to, there you see it, Robert Mueller's team of witch hunters, the so-called investigators, Democratic donors, Hillary supporters, to help their efforts. And as you can imagine, the Trump-hating press and their friends in the left, they were very excited. Very wrong, as I'll explain in a second, but very excited. Take a look.
Now we find out that the president wanted to fire Comey on the grounds that he was concerned about the aggressive Russian probe. In other words, he did it to protect himself, to obstruct justice. This is clearly, it seems to me, close to the smoking gun of obstruction.
We have enough information about this president and his attempts to control Rosenstein and Jeff Sessions, and to literally have them protect him from this investigation. I think it is clear that he's obstructed justice.
The question about the president and Comey's firing has always been, what did it mean about the Russian investigation?
Mm-hmm. Rod Rosenstein is one of the people that Donald Trump has been hammering, that he doesn't trust him and all the such. But if Rosenstein really did try to give him a cover story to fire Comey, I wonder why. I mean, talk about repaying a favor. I'm just saying that's pretty amazing how this is all turning out.
Pretty amazing how dumb my so-called colleagues in this industry are. You know what? It's not a real news story. More lies, more hysteria, more breathless reporting of so-called news. And while McCabe expressed concerns about Trump using a cover story to fire Comey, okay, here's what they're not telling you. The president had the full authority to fire Comey for any reason. He didn't need a cover story at all. Remember, even Comey himself said the president had the right to fire him for any reason. That's fake news. That's hysteria. That's outright lying to you, the American people. Now, this comes after our own Adam Housley reported that McCabe allegedly threatened to take others down with him if he was fired. Get it? They're now turning on each other? Now, in reality, this McCabe memo provides literally no evidence that the president did anything wrong. Instead, the memo does reveal something else. According to the document, the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, I've been warning you to keep that name in your head. He told McCabe about conversations he had with the president surrounding the FBI's Russia investigation and the firing of Comey. Now, this means Rod Rosenstein, again, is obviously a witness to the special counsel's investigation. Witness number one, this very investigation he's overseeing. He's even more compromised than we thought tonight. So how is it possible, again, the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, recused himself over so-called possible conflicts of interest, citing the wrong law and statute in doing so, But Rod Rosenstein, he's not conflicted. Remember, he also signed that final FISA warrant. He put his signature on it. And that was with the bought and paid for Hillary Clinton dossier, Russian propaganda, a foreign agent literally using Russian lies. Yeah, to lie to you, the American people. Just one more wrinkle to Mueller's completely flawed, fraudulent witch hunt. It needs to end. Look at what this is doing to this country. And by the way, you, the American people, have already paid more than $16 million to fund this partisan effort of Robert Mueller. And for what? 379 days without any evidence of any Russia so-called collusion whatsoever. Nothing. And also breaking tonight, we're peeling back even more layers of this deep state. John Solomon will join us tonight. Brand new information, details on serious and shocking abuse of power. You will be here in moments to preview this upcoming bombshell report, which reveals that in 2016, the Obama administration pressured the FBI to ramp up their spying operations against the Trump campaign and the Trump administration. A massive exclusive. Stay with us. Also, yesterday in the Washington Examiner, Byron York highlighted the 2017 congressional testimony from Fusion GPS founder Glenn Simpson. He told members of the Senate Judiciary Committee that, quote, the FBI had a human source inside the Trump campaign. Okay, that was way back in 2017. Don't forget last week, former CIA director turned CNN hack, director of national intelligence, James Clapper, actually said that Trump should be so happy that the FBI was spying on his campaign. Really? Oh, United States of America or Venezuela? Take a look.
So I ask you, was the FBI spying on Trump's campaign?
No, they were not. They were spying on a term I don't particularly like, but on what the Russians were doing, trying to understand, were the Russians infiltrating, trying to gain access, trying to gain leverage and influence.
So why doesn't he like?
Which is what they do.
So why doesn't he like that? He should be happy that.
Well, he should be.
Why didn't you go to him in the spring of 2016 and say, hey, there's this guy that you never met that we're watching? He would have helped you. Remember, the most exculpatory evidence in the Comey memo was, I didn't do this, but if anyone around me did, I want the world to know. So it's crystal clear that the Trump campaign, yes, was spied on, was monitored, was closely observed by the deep state, which was hell-bent on making sure Donald Trump never became the president. A major abuse of power. It's all unraveling. Now, meanwhile, Clapper, who you just heard from, he's now actually in a really twisted, distorted way, blaming Republicans for obstructing federal efforts to warn the American people about the Russian election interference in 2016. Remember the Nunes Washington Examiner piece 2014? He warned us way ahead of you. Take a look.
There was concern on the part of the president himself because of the allegations of rigging, which the candidate Trump was then espousing, that anything that the president did would be viewed as political, and he would be putting his hand on the scale in favor of one candidate to the disfavor of the other. So I think Ben's exactly right, and my book comports with his account.
Yeah, he says, but not for Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader. Perhaps there would have been more said. Did Mitch McConnell stand in the way?
Well, the Republicans in general did. We encountered reluctance on their part to enter into a very aggressive statement about the Russian.
Wow, Republicans, really, Mr. Clapper, known liar? Maybe Clapper should read this 2016 report from NBC News. They titled it, Why Didn't Obama Do More About Russian Election Hacking? According to NBC News, the Obama administration didn't act because, quote, they thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win and a potential cyber war with Russia just wasn't worth it. Looks like Clapper is fitting right there in at CNN fake news. He gets paid. And of course, while Clapper, everyone else in the deep state tries to drag this president down, the president has been up to serious business to actually attend to on the world stage. You know, important things like peace, the upcoming talks with the North Korean dictator, little rocket man Kim Jong-un. Well, last night, the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, held a productive meeting with the high-ranking member of the North Korean regime, first time in 18 years on U.S. soil. And this is what Pompeo had to say earlier today.
Today, Vice Chairman Kim and I discussed how our countries could come together and take advantage of the unique opportunity that our two leaders have created through their visions of the future that they have so clearly articulated. The proposed summit offers a historic opening for President Trump and Chairman Kim to boldly lead the United States and the DPRK into a new era of peace, prosperity, and security. Our two countries face a pivotal moment in our relationship in which it could be nothing short of tragic to let this opportunity go to waste. So that if Kim Jong-un denuclearizes, there is a brighter path for North Korea. We envision a strong, connected, and secure, prosperous North Korea that maintains its cultural heritage, but is integrated into the community of nations.
Great news. The president himself, he's set to meet with this high-ranking North Korean official tomorrow. And by the way, that Korean official will be delivering a letter from Kim Jong-un himself. Take a look.
We're doing very well with North Korea. Our Secretary of State has had very good meetings. He's meeting again today. I believe they'll be coming down to Washington on Friday, and a letter is going to be delivered to me from Kim Jong-un. So I look forward to seeing what's in the letter. Hopefully we'll have a meeting on the 12th. That's going along very well, but I want it to be meaningful. It doesn't mean it gets all done at one meeting. Maybe you have to have a second or a third, and maybe we'll have none. But it's in good hands.
As the president manages the ongoing negotiations with North Korea, well, he's also been making waves right here at home, and I think good waves. Today, the president pardoned friend of this program, conservative activist, author Dinesh D'Souza. Remember, he was prosecuted under the Obama administration for violating a campaign finance law, one that is rarely ever punished like this. President Trump he is considering a pardon for Martha Stewart and even for the former Democratic governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich. And while the media barely yawned over Obama's pardons and Clinton's infamous pardons, they were absolutely spinning out of control because the president is using his absolute power of the pardon. He has the right to do whatever he wants on this. Too bad. Take a look.
To raise questions of whether the president is sending a message with these pardons, sending a message to people like Paul Manafort, Michael Flynn. Those are the obvious questions that are going to come about here.
He's throwing raw meat, a bone to the far right here. Dinesh D'Souza, for over 3 decades, has been an extreme peddler of ideology, far-right ideology, and you have to say hatred.
President Trump seemingly passing out pardons to heroes of the far right almost as eagerly as Oprah once gifted Pontiacs to suburban moms.
We're one step closer to being a third world power as of today. I mean, tariffs and pardons, these are things that we see from banana republics.
The president not only announced he is pardoning a darling of the far right, Dinesh D'Souza, as you said, Mr. Trump added he's also considering leniency for 2 stars of his former TV show, making this White House once again seem detached from reality.
Mark Rich, FALN Clinton, drug dealers Obama. Okay, we don't need lectures from these people. Leave it to the media to totally ignore the massive abuse of power that took place during the prosecution of, say, Dinesh D'Souza. Remember, he pled guilty using straw donors to contribute $20,000 to a senatorial campaign, only after being threatened with much larger charges, bigger charges from a biased anti-conservative prosecutor. Then look, let's take the case of Martha Stewart. Remember, she was found guilty of obstruction of justice after prosecutors tried and failed to send her to prison on an insider trading charge after, well, in other words, she had a stock transaction. They couldn't get her on that. So they went after her for obstruction. And don't forget Scooter Libby, the public servant who had the book thrown at him over an alleged unproven leak when they knew who the leaker was the first day that Patrick Fitzgerald took over the case. These strong-arm tactics to elicit guilty convictions from individuals perhaps who otherwise would never have been charged because they can't get them on the charge they're investigating. It deserves a serious conversation in this country and not coordinated outrage by the hypocritical double standard in the Trump-hating media. And let's just compare all of this to James Comey and Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and Andrew McCabe and, of course, the tarmac meeting with Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton. Remember, they cleared Hillary Clinton of wrongdoing. She deleted 33,000 subpoenaed emails, classified, top secret, special access program information, again, subpoenaed on a private server. She covered it up, obstructed justice by deleting them right there. And then, of course, the acid wash. And then, of course, the breaking up of the devices with hammers. Really? I say free Martha Stewart. Give her the pardon. And compared to former Clinton National Security Advisor, remember Sandy, the burglar, Berger? He stole classified documents from the National Archives. He stuck them in his pants and in his socks. He never got charged with a crime. Can you say a two-tier justice system? What happened to equal justice under the law? What happened to equal application of the law? What happened to our constitutional rights that we're all equal in this country? Finally tonight, a story from a so-called comedian named Samantha Bee. Listen to what Bee had to say about Ivanka Trump. It'll make you puke, but look anyway. It was on TBS last night. Public spotlight, you can pretty much say and do anything else you want and no consequences. And of course, the opposite is true for conservatives. We just saw Roseanne's show canceled after the comments she made. But for Samantha Bee, an apology, that's good enough, no problem. She said, I would like to sincerely apologize to Ivanka Trump and to my viewers for using an expletive on my show to describe her last night. It was inappropriate, inexcusable. TBS shares the same parent company as fake news CNN, also apologized, and then they praised their late night so-called star for doing the same. Look, let me be clear. I don't call for boycotts. I don't call for people to be silenced. I don't want shows canceled. I'm not calling for anyone in the media to be fired. You think Samantha Bee is an untalented, not funny, bitter, partisan, mindless hack like I do, you have the power. Turn the channel. You don't have to watch her hateful show. Sadly, just one more example of what is a blatant double standard in America. Republicans, conservatives sent to the chopping block, and those on the left, they're given a pass. Here with reaction to all these new developments out of the deep state from the Hill, John Solomon, Fox News contributor, Sarah Carter. John, we start with you. You have a huge story you are about to unfold. I've got some, well, let's just say a preview of coming attractions here. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I'm putting the finishing touches on a column I think will come out tomorrow, and I will reveal two really important things. The efforts to begin targeting and reaching out to Trump campaign officials to gain intelligence on Russia that would ultimately justify the investigation began weeks and maybe months before the FBI had a formal predicate. And that's very important. The rules say you can't use sources until you have a predicated investigation. The predication is July 31st, 2016. My sources and documents that I'll be able to make public tomorrow will show that there were contacts going on by people identified as informers, informants, people who provided information began much, much earlier than July 31st. That's the first part. Second part is, as the investigation was just starting to ramp up, there are internal FBI documents showing FBI agents talking about the White House trying to take over the investigation, fears that the Justice Department was going to leak for political reasons, and their own personal fear.
Slow down.
Yeah.
When you say the White House, you mean the Obama White House.
Yes.
They were attempting to take over the investigation.
That's what these messages say. The White House is going to be in charge.
These are FBI messages.
Yes.
And we're talking about the Obama White House. How high up are we talking about here?
We don't know. The text messages are just what they are, right? They don't give a lot of detail. They're short and as you would normally see in a text message. But the words, the White House is running this, are clear in the text message, and people will be able to make up their own mind. And here's another thing that's going to be really interesting to people. You just had it in your monologue a little bit about whether President Obama was aggressive enough on Russia. The FBI agents who opened this case feared that Barack Obama was weak on national security and wouldn't do what they needed for Russia. You're going to see those messages tomorrow, and I think people will be able to see those in between those bookend events.
These are struck page texts?
Some of them are struck page texts, some are other documents.
And
some are.
And there's about to be, am I wrong, a cascading flow of information when the IG report comes out. Let me bring Sarah into this part.
Yeah, 400 pages.
Right. That the IG is going to release, and it will immediately be followed up by good people in the FBI and in the intelligence community that will corroborate and confirm this was rigged, this investigation into Hillary Clinton. Sarah.
Yes, there are a number of people that are ready to speak, a number of FBI agents that are currently working in the Bureau, and other former agents who want to tell the truth about what was going on. I mean, Sean, we know what happened at the higher levels on the 7th floor of the FBI, the highest officials, but there are so many agents within the Bureau that were disgusted by what happened. I mean, I reported over and over again, I know John has too, that agents were so angered when Comey made this decision, a decision he shouldn't have made, by the way. It should have been left up to the Department of Justice, that they literally got up from their desks in some field offices, left their offices and didn't return until the next week. Other agents were throwing food at the television at Comey. So, I mean, there are a lot of people that are ready to talk. They're ready to talk about what happened. It just depends on if Congress calls them to testify, and I think that's very important.
John, you're talking about the timeline being off, and you're talking about documents within the FBI that bring this right to the Obama White House. Correct?
Yeah. Well, certainly the suggestion that the White House and the Justice Department, the political elements of the administration, were trying to intrude on the FBI investigation. People will read these messages and they'll see for themselves tomorrow. But that is clearly one of the things that the whistleblowers who approached me were able to lead me to.
And you'll be back tomorrow. Sarah will give you the last word tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, and another quick point. John's very, very accurate on that. I mean, I believe John Brennan would have known all of this. There were a lot of other high-level officials would have known what was going on in a counterintelligence investigation, particularly one involving a campaign.
We'll see you both here tomorrow with this big Congressman praise the FBI for spying on the Trump campaign. Congressman Gowdy, what's happened to you? Take a listen.
And he's drawn a conclusion. There's nothing wrong with this FBI informant. The FBI did exactly what the FBI is supposed to do, and the American people agree. And, of course, Trey Gowdy knows that the American people agree because nobody speaks for the American people like Trey Gowdy. Did they have an informant, a.k.a. a spy, at the DNC to chase down the Russians who were hacking the DNC's emails? No. If they're trying to protect us and the candidates in the election from the Russians, as we pointed out last week, why weren't there informants in Jill Stein's campaign or Hillary Clinton's campaign or Bernie Sanders' campaign?
Boom, checkmate. Here with us, Deputy Assistant to the President, Fox News National Security Strategist Sebastian Gorka, former Secret Service agent, NRA contributor Dan Bongino, author next month, July, coming, The Russian Hoax, the illicit scheme to clear Hillary Clinton and frame Donald Trump. You know him as Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. I have an important question for you. Let me start, though, with Dan Bongino responding to the great one and Trey Gowdy. Why weren't there spies in anyone else's campaign? Great question. How is it that, as Greg has pointed out, the interrogatories in Great Britain by Christopher Steele, he said, oh, it's raw intelligence, maybe 50-50, used to get FISA warrants on American citizens, one that happened to be in the Trump campaign?
They weren't spies in other campaigns, Sean, because they were spying on Trump. They weren't spying on the Russians. You know, listen, this is I don't know if Trey Gowdy wafted a little of that swamp air up his nose or something.
He never saw the documents. How could he make that comment?
He never saw the documents. But he made a comment so irresponsible and reprehensible, Sean. He said Americans should be confident the FBI worked the case as they should have. Really? Then why'd they hide the case from congressional oversight? They hid it. This is all out there for anyone to see for 8 months when they were supposed to brief them quarterly, while they simultaneously, Sean, leaked the existence of the case to the New York Times and then leaked later the conversation about Mike Flynn to the Washington Post. That's the FBI way? No, it's not.
Everything the New York Times is reporting is now boomerang, even within their own reports. You know, they just revealing, information like spies, the information that they don't mean to reveal. Dr. Gorka, let me ask you about this McCabe secret memo that I talked about. Again, I think that is now backfiring on them as well.
Absolutely. It's the ultimate boomerang, all of this. Look at that video of Ben Rhodes, and then you will understand everything. The night of the election, Ben Rhodes, the master of lying, has no words to explain the loss of Hillary Clinton. This is why they were doing what they were doing. She had to win at all costs. That's why an intelligence asset, whatever you want to call it, was put into the Trump campaign. And let's not argue about whether it's a spy or an informant, because that's irrelevant. Sean, we need to know one answer to one question. Why was the operation started? We still don't know. An Australian ambassador, a professor in the UK, now a Maltese professor in Rome. It stinks to high heaven. And Trey Gowdy,
we
who
know
hasn't
so much
read the
corruption.
documents.
Look at what I said
But
about
this is
Martha
outrageous.
Stewart. The fix is in for Hillary. She didn't obstruct justice, but Martha Stewart did. Okay, do we have equal justice under the law? Look at unmasking. Look at surveillance. Look at leaking intelligence. Fixing Hillary campaign. FISA abuse. all of this is, it's rotting from the head down, and the FBI rank and file are going to expose it. This dovetails nicely, this whole McCabe memo. And first of all, the president could fire Comey because he didn't like the color of his socks. He doesn't need a reason. But when you add that to what John Solomon is now, he is saying, FBI documents, bring it right to the Obama administration.
Absolutely.
And I've seen more than I can say.
Peter Strzok sent a text message to his mistress, Lisa Page, on August 5th. He had just signed the documents opening the Trump-Russia collusion case. And in that text, he says, the White House is running this. The chronology of events tells you what happened.
So we're going to see a Peter Strzok memo, the guy that wrote the exoneration of Hillary, before the investigation,
signed the papers. The guy that the Trump investigation
immediately ran over to
and
Great
says
Britain.
The White House is running this. What does that mean? President
the Obama White House.
Of course, it meant President Obama, who's being briefed all the time by John Brennan, the CIA director, who is the instigator of the phony dossier.
Another big reveal by the New York Times. They didn't mean, for the FBI to interview this Australian that met and was drinking with Papadopoulos Downer, it had to be negotiated by our State Department. That means John Kerry knew. That means that probably Obama knew. Sure. That's another sign pointing to Barack Obama and company.
On June 20th, Steele writes his phony, fictitious dossier first memo. He immediately calls the FBI. The FBI, 2 weeks later, flies to London at Orbis headquarters and meets with Christopher Steele, who tells them all about Trump-Russia collusion. That was phony evidence. 3 weeks later, the FBI opens its investigation, and only thereafter do they start looking into Papadopoulos.
And now we know the timeline is off, too, because it started in the spring. All right, last word from both Dan and Dr. Gorka. Dan.
Sean, I think the next shoe to drop is the information about, Russian dirt on Hillary was clearly pulled out of the campaign by the FBI. Who pushed it in there? That's going to be the next shoe to drop.
Okay, paying close attention. And Dr. Gorka.
The suspect number one is John Brennan, and he wouldn't have moved a muscle unless Obama knew as well.
Boom. Okay. It's all collapsing, and they're turning on each other. Did you notice that? Cabe, Comey, it's all going to be a circular firing squad against each other.
And Peter Strzok and Lisa Page.
Oh, can't wait. Wait till you see this. I have it. Wait, I have it right here. I just can't show it today. I'll show it tomorrow. All right, Jesse Waters, Jessica Tarlov on Samantha Bee's vicious, vile, hateful comments about Ivanka Trump. Vile rhetoric used by the left last night during my mini monologue. We played a few other examples of outrageous comments that so often go unchallenged. This is a small sampling of them.
A lot of us thought, Ivanka's going to be our saving grace, when he's about to nuke Finland or something. She's going to walk into the bedroom and, Daddy. Don't do it, Daddy.
Hello, everybody out there in TV town. This is Karl Malone of the Utah Jazz, here to tell you about Karl Malone home state, Louisiana. Sometime at night, Karl Malone look up in the sky and say, what the hell going on up there?
I'm tired of the mac and you ain't nothing. You a punk. Now come on, do something.
We the best chicken fries in the universe. But we don't go buy some kind of sandwich chicken. Folks was in the cave when we had built empires. We learned to admire them, but they knew to admire us. We built pyramids before Donald Trump ever knew what architecture was.
Then, by the way, you have Keith Olbermann. Oh, by the way, the president just arriving at Joint Based Air Base. There you can see right there. There's Air Force One. Wow. Beautiful plane. Keith Olbermann, the short-tempered, insane, Trump-hating liberal pundit. You might remember Olbermann went on a vile, hateful tweet storm, many of them, against President Trump. And yeah, also his daughter Ivanka tweeting, quote, you tell your racist, white supremacist, neo-Nazi father to get the bleep out of our society. He was just rehired by Bob Iger, ABC. Joining us with reaction, Fox News contributor Jessica Tarlov, co-host of The Five. He has two shows. It's his world, you live in it. Jesse Waters is here. Well, it might not be. I mean, one night she's going to win.
We'll see about that.
Okay. I'm just going to say your answer. Is there a double standard?
I think that there is in a lot of cases. I think that what Roseanne said is... No, but you went for honesty, right?
Wait a minute.
What was the last...
Right now, the scales are tipped in our favor. Keep going.
Okay.
Okay. Ooh.
So, well, give me just like 1 second.
Imagine if I did that to you. Wow. Go ahead, sorry.
I think what Roseanne said
By the
was
way, at
worse
home, they're
than...
best friends. They all get along. Okay, go ahead.
I think what Roseanne said was on another level to what Samantha Bee said. I'm not sure why she did it. It was something that was scripted. They obviously decided was a good idea, and it really shifted the narrative, right?
Really?
To the...
That word.
Oh, I would never use it. It's extremely
I didn't ask if
offensive.
you
But
would use it.
Samantha Bee has
Scripted. Slow down.
used that kind
Scripted.
of language through her entire career. If you don't like it, don't watch it. That's how you are. Don't boycott things. You just say it's free market.
Did I
Turn
say to
off
fire,
the TV.
boycott?
No, but I didn't say fire Roseanne either. Clearly, Bob Iger and ABC made a decision that Roseanne Barr was
Olbermann
not
stays,
good.
Alec Baldwin
for-
stays, Kimmel stays. I'm not calling for anyone to be fired.
I understand that, but I don't think what Alec Baldwin has said and Jimmy Kimmel has addressed that when you guys were in your little thing, right? He talked about it and has apologized for it.
Oh, I think Roseanne apologized, Jesse.
Well, here's what I would say. I would say the left will defend the C word. They will defend Bill Maher using the N word.
No.
They will defend MS-13, and they will defend assassination jokes. But when Donald Trump calls Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas, they get really upset. And I don't buy her apology. I just think she's upset that she got caught. Because I did a little research, Sean, because this show's that important. And these are the things she's called Donald Trump. Ready? The A word, the D word, the other D word, the B word, Kellyanne Conway, B word. About Hope Hicks, F you. Sarah Sanders, effing evil. So the media traffics in this because they profit from it. Because you heard the audience, if you ever hear the tape of her saying the C word, they're all cheering. They're all clapping. That's why they call her Samantha B-list, because she caters to such a low denominator.
There are a lot of comedians
Before you answer.
Shocking.
Scales have shifted.
Yeah. It's smart, though, but you're using my pen, so that's kind of cheating.
He stole your. Go ahead.
I lent it to him because we are
Here,
friends.
you can keep it. Brand new one.
Yes?
Comedians across the board, we just happen to have more of them. And you can say so-called comedians, or I don't think that they're funny, but at the end of the day, more liberals are comedians go into that profession. They are supposed to push boundaries. I don't think it was appropriate. But at the same time, there are people on the right who say horrible things all the time. I mean, look at the things that Ted Nugent has said, and then he got an invitation to the White House.
Yeah, you can always point to Ted Nugent. But, you guys have the Chelsea Handlers and the Samantha Bees and the Stephen Colberts, and they will say the most disgusting, disparaging things about President Trump, but they won't say radical Islam. That might offend someone.
That's such an old talking point now. We're so past the radical Islam debate. If you listen to the things that were said about the Obamas, the comparisons, just like Roseanne Barr did, to...
Wait a second. When someone on this network said a nasty thing about President Obama, they were suspended for a week or two. All they did over at TBS was say, she'll be back tomorrow night.
Did Samantha Bee call an African-American person an ape?
No, she used the C word against the first daughter.
But we're saying...
Slow down. She used the C word against the first daughter.
Yes, I know what she did.
And
they made a
TBS is okay with that.
Okay. If you run TBS eventually, then you can fire Samantha Bee, but that's their decision. And you guys are both for that principle,
I'd rather
right?
run Fox News.
I'm sure you're getting closer by the day, and I'm just going to be here.
Oh, he give you a raise. Maybe her own show?
Yeah, why not? We'll think about it.
I'm sure that viewership would be super high.
You know, I will say this. I said this last night. Beyond the double standard, I think it's bigger than that. And you see it on social media. There is a coarseness, a vile, vicious. Newt Gingrich, I think, nailed it, brilliant as he is, every time. At 10 o'clock on Election Day in 2016, there was a psychosis that broke out on the left, in the media, and it's not gone away. They cannot believe they lost. Donald Trump won. And here's the thing. They now really hope, oh, crap, the economy's turning better. Oh, no, we might get a deal with Little Rocket Man. Oh, no, hostages are released. Oh, no, he pulled out of the Iranian deal. To win, they have to hope for he fails. Don't you want the country to succeed?
Absolutely.
And you don't want to raise taxes, but take the crumbs back from the American people, do you?
I have never supported the crumbs rhetoric, but I do think that we could give larger individual tax cuts and maybe smaller corporate tax cuts, and in case that money doesn't trickle down like everyone pretends that
But
it's
the
going
crumbs
to.
should stay.
Yes, the $1,000 should stay. Absolutely.
$2,000.
It's $1,000.
And then you add the
It's fake
$1,000
news.
bonus from the Fortune
Yeah, but how much
500 companies.
the gas?
That adds up to
how much does the
$3,000.
gas the gas costs a lot now?
All right,
so
we ready?
It's like half.
Under $3
I think it was pretty decent. I don't know.
You got a consolation prize.
Had very good meetings. I believe they'll be coming down to Washington on Friday, and a letter is going to be delivered to me from Kim Jong-un. So I look forward to seeing what's in the letter. Hopefully we'll have a meeting on the 12th. That's going along very well, but I want it to be meaningful. It doesn't mean it gets all done at one meeting. Maybe you have to have a second or a third, and maybe we'll have none. But it's in good hands. That I can tell you.
The president earlier today saying he's looking forward to receiving a letter from the North Korean dictator, Kim Jong-un, tomorrow at the White House. Only moments ago, we saw the president arrive at Joint Base Andrews. You can see a little bit of rain. And joining us live from the White House with more, Fox News correspondent Kristen Fisher is with us tonight. Kristen, well, he'll be back there probably in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. And, you know, this really would have been unthinkable just 6 months ago. Now you have Kim Jong-un's right-hand man on his way to Washington, and tomorrow he's poised to hand-deliver a letter from his boss to President Trump right here at the White House. And this comes after today spending the day in New York City with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. This is the third time that the two have met in less than 2 months. The secretary described the negotiations as difficult, but moving in the right direction.
Our two countries face a pivotal moment in our relationship in which it could be nothing short of tragic to let this opportunity go to waste.
And preparations are already underway in Singapore for what the secretary describes as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But he still doesn't know when he will be able to officially announce if this summit is on or off. As for what exactly is in this sealed letter, Sean, it appears that even President Trump is in the dark. He told reporters today that he's looking forward to reading it.
Obviously,
Sean.
hopefully optimistic. We'll hopefully learn more about that tomorrow. Thanks, Kristen, at the White House tonight. Joining us now with reaction, retired CIA senior intelligence officer, now Fox News contributor Daniel Hoffman is with us. I love the way the president phrased this. Again, missiles not fired over Japan. Guam's not in jeopardy. The Korean Peninsula is more safe tonight. Hostages released. Cross the DMZ. Trump pulls out. They beg, please, no, please, please, please. No downside, and we didn't pay any cash this time, did we?
Yeah, that's right. It's quite a contrast from what the Obama administration gave up to get Bo Bergdahl back. Some pretty 5 really significantly bad terrorists. But what I would highlight about tomorrow's meeting and today's meeting between Secretary Pompeo and Kim Young-chol. Kim Young-chol is a 4-star general, former head of military intelligence. Deep background in nuclear negotiations, absolutely reflects Kim Jong-un, the seriousness with which Kim Jong-un is approaching what looks like a summit in Singapore on 12 June. Now, Kim Young-chol is an unsavory character. He's been sanctioned for targeting Sony Pictures with that cyber attack and being responsible for killing 46 South Korean sailors back in 2010. But this is the hand we're dealt with, and it's part of the challenge of dealing with the Hermit Kingdom. These are the kind of negotiations that will have to take place with some unsavory characters.
I love the fact that all of these kind of big developments have happened. The president has given up nothing. And I think the fact that the media doesn't understand and the left doesn't understand, this is the art of the deal. This is how you negotiate. Maybe it happens on the 12th. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it takes 1 meeting, 2 meetings, 3 meetings, maybe more. You know what? We're going to try our best. This is worth it for the not only the country but for the world. And so much progress that, again, I think Kristen was right. We didn't anticipate 6 months ago.
Right. I think North Korea tried to practice the art of diplomatic brinkmanship, and they failed when the president walked away from the summit, and North Korea came back with a very conciliatory, absolutely not at all bellicose message, indicating that they were really serious about wanting to talk to us. Now, again, This is going to be an extraordinarily complex series of negotiations. Russia is already interfering with Minister of Foreign Affairs Lavrov visiting Pyongyang today and talking about ratcheting down the sanctions, which is not helpful. But again, I think we're playing our hand as well as we possibly could. I wouldn't expect any immediate gratification for us, but I do believe that we've
already had
absolutely
some,
showing the North Koreans that we mean business. And the